What is the due date for uploading practicals? Due date is tomorrow only. Okay. Before 12 o'clock, you just upload it. Before tomorrow afternoon, upload it. Actually, you already written the lab manual. Okay. The same lab manual, first 3 experiments, I need the data. Just take photograph of your first 3 experiments, convert to PDF and submit to me. That's it. So meanwhile, let me share my PPT. Just sharing option. Yeah, I got it. So I hope you can see a whiteboard here. Let me take a highlighter. All right. So listen, students, very carefully. So now I will discuss about bleeding time. So one is bleeding time and other one is clotting time. So what is the difference between bleeding time and clotting time? So imagine we have a blood vessel. Okay, so this is a blood vessel. So to this blood vessel, it was damaged. Okay, this blood vessel was damaged. Maybe you got some accident and you got damage. Okay, so whenever there is a damage, what happens immediately? The blood will start oozing out, right? So that we can see bleeding from this spot. Okay, so bleeding will start immediately after a blood vessel cut. Okay, so whenever there is a bleeding, what happens within the blood vessels means we have a specialized cells called platelets. Okay, now these platelets will start aggregating at the site of bleeding site. Okay, where is the damage? Near the damage area, platelets will aggregate like this. They will segregate and they will make a clump of platelets like this. Okay, now these platelets will prevent bleeding, and this happens within 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so immediately after platelets coming to the spot of damage, they will stop the bleeding. So the time it taken from the onset of bleeding to the prevention of bleeding by platelets, this is called primary plug formation. By the way, this platelet blocking of bleeding is called primary plug formation. This is just a temporary stoppage of bleeding, but not a permanent solution. Keep in mind. Okay, so this is called bleeding time. This phenomenon is called as bleeding time. So bleeding time will be in some minutes. Okay, some let me say 2 to 3 minutes. So within 3 minutes our bleeding will stop, right? In reality also. So this is called as bleeding time. So now the reason why we are doing this bleeding time is in some patients, okay, they don't have adequate amount of platelets. Let us assume the normal platelet count, okay, a hypothetical count. The normal count is around 1.5 to 4 lakhs. Okay, so a normal person should have 1 lakh platelets. Minimum 1 lakh platelets should have in a normal person. Now, if the platelets are reduced, if the platelet count reduced less than 1 lakh, say for example 40,000 platelets, then what happens? Whenever there is a damage to the blood vessel, these platelets are unable to block the site. They are unable to prevent the bleeding. In such cases, the bleeding time will drastically increases. When there are less platelets, bleeding time will increase beyond 3 minutes. Bleeding time may increase up to 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, up to 5 to 6 minutes, the bleeding time will increase. The reason is because of a decreased amount of platelets. Less platelets will result in increased bleeding time. So bleeding time always focuses on the amount of platelets present in the body. The lesser the platelets, the higher the bleeding time. Okay, in order to assess the functional status, functional status of the platelets, we are doing this one. This is a bleeding time analysis. Okay, so yes, Aman. Good afternoon, Aman. Now, let me give you some conditions where the bleeding time will increase. Say for example, we got a patient got this viral fever, dengue viral fever. Okay, in dengue viral fever, what happens is this virus will damage the platelets. This dengue virus will damage the platelets, resulting in increased bleeding time. So there are certain conditions where bleeding time will increase. So assessing the bleeding time will give us the picture of platelet activity and also associated activities. Like in some patients, the blood vessels will be very thin. They're very fragile that they are highly tendent to get bleeding. Okay, so there are some conditions. So all those conditions will be addressed by bleeding time. Okay, let me check in chat box. So Aman saying due to network issue, I joined now. Could you please repeat, sir, from starting, sir? Please, sir. Yeah. So yes, what I'm saying is bleeding time and clotting time. So in bleeding time, what happens whenever there is a blood vessel, whenever there is a damage to the blood vessel, immediately platelets will, there will be a bleeding. So blood will start oozing out. Now, the time it taken from the onset of bleeding to the stoppage of bleeding is called as bleeding time. From the damage to the stoppage of bleeding is called as bleeding time. This bleeding time, the bleeding will be stopped because of involvement of platelets in the damaged area. So the platelets will suddenly rush into the damaged tissue and they will block, they will stop the bleeding. Okay, this mechanism is called hemostasis. Stasis means to arrest, hemo means blood arresting mechanism. Okay, so yes, so whenever there is the platelet count is decreased, then there will be increased bleeding time. This is what I was trying to say. Okay, so bleeding time always discusses about the functional status of the platelets. That's it. Okay, now we know there is a problem with bleeding time. The problem is after 3 minutes we won't get bleeding. Okay, bleeding will stop. But if you hit that area again, say for example, the area is your hand. Okay, so in this hand you got a bleeding. Then after 3 minutes the bleeding has been stopped. Okay, now after 10 minutes, if you tap on the area of this bleeding, on the area of injury, it will start bleeding again. Why it bleeded again? The reason is the temporary platelets will break. The barrier of this platelet primary plug will be broken and it will bleed again. So just preventing bleeding is not an answer to a tissue repair. We need something solid that can able to withstand even high pressures, high mechanical pressures. That means we need to block this damage site with cement like material rather than just keeping bricks to block to prevent the bleeding. I need to cement the bricks. I need a material which is equivalent to cement to permanently block the bleeding, and that is where our clotting time comes. Now I will tell how clotting time does. Okay, so let me draw a blood vessel again. So I'm going to draw blood vessel. Let me draw like this. Yeah. Yes. So this is a blood vessel. So as usual, whenever there is a damage to the blood vessel, the bleeding has started. Okay, the bleeding has started. Now, as usual, our platelets came to the site of damage and they blocked it. Okay. Now they made this primary platelet plug. Now, what our platelets do is they will start utilizing a molecule called fibrinogen. In the plasma, we have something called fibrinogen. This is the fibrinogen molecule. This fibrinogen is like a inactive form of cement, you can say. Like a sand and cement, if they are in separate form, no, we won't get that rigidity. But if we mix sand and cement with water, then we will get a very tight wall. Similarly, now our platelets will start converting this fibrinogen into fibrin threads. Platelets will convert fibrinogen to fibrin. So fibrin threads will clot the blood. Upon formation of these fibrin threads, what happens? The blood will clot. Okay. So now, once the blood is clotted, that's it. We can able to permanently we can repair the damaged tissue. So there won't be any more bleeding hereafter. So this is called fibrin threads. Okay, uh, fibrin threads, and this is, I will say this as a FG. That means fibrinogen. So FG will be converted to fibrin. Okay. Now I want to tell one important thing here. For the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, like this fibrin, okay, platelets will utilize 13 clotting factors. We have almost 13 clotting factors in the plasma. So we have named the clotting factors, okay, like this all with the Roman numbers. We have named them 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 is not there. Keep in mind 7, 8. So the first clotting factor will be fibrinogen, tissue thromboplastin, calcium, prothrombin level. We have almost 13 clotting factors are there. So now, with the help of, we need all these 13 clotting factors to convert a fibrinogen to fibrin. So now the platelets will start utilizing all these 13 clotting factors. With the help of them, okay, with the help of these 13 clotting factors, the platelets will convert a fibrinogen to fibrin and blood will clot. This is called as clotting time. This time is called as clotting time. Okay, so clotting time can be defined as it is the time taken for the blood to convert from fluid state to semi-solid state. Milk-like blood will be converted to curd state. Curd is like a semi-solid state, right? Similarly, the curd state of blood is called as clotting. The time it takes for the blood from fluid for conversion of fluid state to the semi-solid state is called as clotting time. For this clotting time, it is dependent on 13 clotting factors. Okay, so what is the normal clotting time? Usually, it's a laborious phenomenon. It's a very complicated phenomenon. It's not as easy as just platelets coming to the site and blocking it. Rather than first platelets should come, then they should utilize 13 clotting factors. Then clotting factors will become those will be used for conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. It's a lengthy process. So that is why the clotting time will be somewhat higher than bleeding time. So clotting time will be around 3 to 6 minutes. Okay, 3 to 6 minutes will be the clotting time. Okay, now in what conditions the clotting time will increase? The conditions where clotting time can increase, including if our patient has deficiency of any one of the clotting factor. Maybe our patient is a hemophilia patient, he don't have clotting factor 8. In such conditions, what happens? Obviously, the clotting time will be increased. So increased clotting time gives us the functional status of the clotting factors in the body, whereas the bleeding time will give us the functional status of the platelets in the body. I want to tell few more things here. In some conditions, if we are malnutrition, okay, if we are malnourished, in such conditions, the plasma fibrinogen levels will be reduced because I'm not eating proper protein diet. So my fibrinogen is a protein. So I have less protein, less fibrinogen. In such cases, my clotting time will increase. In some conditions, there won't be any fibrinogen at all. That is called afibrinogenemia. In such conditions, their blood won't even clot. That is a very big deal, very big problem. Okay. So there are some conditions where the clotting time will increase. There are conditions where the bleeding time will increase. And each has its own significance. And in today's lecture, we are discussing about how to assess the bleeding time and how to assess the clotting time. So this is all about the bleeding time and clotting time. So now let us see how to perform a bleeding time. Very simple. You take a periphery, any finger, okay? You prick the finger, okay? Then we will take something called a filter paper, okay? So I will take filter paper. So now what I will do is I will take a stopwatch. Let me take stopwatch here. Stopwatch has so I will take a stopwatch, a filter paper and a needle. So what I will do is very simple. So I will take a needle. I will prick it. I will prick the needle. Then immediately after pricking my finger, I will start the stopwatch. So now I'm bleeding, right? Now for every 5 seconds, or 30 seconds, that depends. Okay, for every 5 seconds or 30 seconds, I will take one drop on this filter paper. So I got one drop. Then after 30 seconds, I took second drop. Then after 30 seconds, third drop. For 2 minutes, fourth drop. Then similarly, I will take drops for every 30 seconds until I won't see any drop on the on a filter paper. Until there is no more blood drop on the filter paper, I will keep like this for every 30 seconds. The time where I don't see any blood drop, at that time I will stop my stopwatch and I will take the reading. So this is like 50 seconds. So it is under normal bleeding time. So this is how we will do the bleeding time. Okay. So got some question in, sir, can we use lancet instead of needle? Yes, we can use anything, either lancet or needle to prick it. Okay. So this is the idea of clotting time. Oh, sorry, bleeding time. Now there are three methods of bleeding time. Okay, the first method is a finger prick method. Here I will prick a finger and I will go for this filter paper analysis. Or second one is Duke's method. Duke's method only, I guess. Duke's method. In Duke's method, what we will do is, rather than pricking on the finger, I will prick on the earlobe. I will prick near the earlobe, and I will start taking blood drops for every 30 seconds. Okay, this is called Duke's method. If we have one more technique called, I will keep my sphygmomanometer. Okay, my pressure sphygmomanometer here. Under the pressure, I will prick. I will prick on the finger and I will take it. That is the sphygmomanometer guided bleeding type. So these are the three methods we can opt for assessing the bleeding time. So this is all about the bleeding time. Then coming to the clotting time. So in clotting time, what we will do is, first I will take a prick. I will do pricking. Okay, then I will take a very narrow. We have something called this one. What is it? Capillary tube. I will tell what is capillary tube. 1 second. So capillary tube is like a very small, very narrow, very thin glass tube. Okay, thinner than your refill. Okay. So what I will do is I will prick the finger and I will collect the blood into the capillary tube. Because of surface tension, the blood will automatically draws into the tube. So the tube will be filled with blood. Now, for every 1 minute or for every 30 seconds, okay, I will break the tube. So once the blood started clotting, I can able to see some fibrin thread. Once I'm breaking it, I can see some fibrin thread. Visibility of fibrin thread indicates the blood is clotted. This test we will perform for this clotting time analysis. For clotting time analysis, we will use the capillary tube, whereas for bleeding time, we will go with the filter paper technique. So this is all about the bleeding time and clotting time. So now let us see any YouTube video. Okay, let us go through the lab manual, then we can see the YouTube video. Okay, I got a question here. Sir, please repeat third method. Third method is pricking from the finger only under the influence of a sphygmomanometer. So first I will keep cuff of sphygmomanometer, then I will take it. That's it. That is the third method of clotting, bleeding time. So now I will show you the lab manual. Okay. So just to give me time. Let me open lab manual and let us read whether whatever we learned is correlating with data or not, or lab manual or not. Where is the lab manual? Here it is. So I hope that you can see lab manual. So the first one is bleeding time. So bleeding time is required for small cut to stop bleeding. Okay. So when a blood vessel is injured, blood comes out for some time, then it stops because of formation of platelet plug. I said that platelet plug formation. So the duration of bleeding time is called the duration of bleeding is called as bleeding time. So Aman asking it out. I think Aman not raised his hand. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ah,
Hello,
yes.
sir.
Yes, Aman.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Hmm.
Sir, why we do pricking on the earlobe in the Dukes method? Means what is special in the earlobe? Can we use another organ space like tip of nose?
Very good question. Actually, if at the tip of your ear, no, there will be more capillaries, blood capillaries. So we will get good bleeding from ear tip. That is the reason. And it is
So
safe.
can we also use a tip of nose?
We cannot use the tip of nose. There is a chance of infection. So because it is nearer to the mucous membrane, so there is a high chance of cross contaminating the surrounding tissues. So that's why we are not opting for tip of nose. And
Okay, sir.
also,
Thank you.
yes,
Yes, sir.
in the nose, no, there is this cartilage bone. So repairing cartilage bone will take more time, and also it is very painful. So that's why we are going with the ear tip, which is very less painful compared to other methods we have. Okay,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
yes,
Thank you, sir.
that's a good question. So yeah, uh, yeah, that is all about the bleeding time. Okay, so we have three methods as I stated. One is finger prick method, second one is IV method, and third one is Duke's method. Duke's method is your earlobe method, whereas IV method means this is our this one. Sphygmomanometer method is called IV method. Okay, so in the syllabus I given simple method, which is finger prick method. So our aim is to demonstrate bleeding time by finger prick method. So principle is very simple. A small puncture is made on a skin, and the time for which it bleeds is noted. Bleeding stops when platelet plug is formed. And breach in the blood vessel is sealed. Okay, that's it. So equipment, we need very basic equipment. We need lancet, filter paper, stopwatch, and cotton and spirit. Okay, and TP of course. So clean the fingertip with a spirit. Prick with a disposable needle. Start the stopwatch. Start gently touching the this filter paper for every 30 seconds as I stated. Okay, for every 30 seconds you need to take it until you won't see any bleeding spots, blood spots on the paper. Then you can record it. That's it. So the normal bleeding time will be around 1 to 3 minutes. Observation, you need to write the observation result. Okay, significance, clinical significance, you should write by yourself, students. Just Google it or refer some textbooks on the clinical significance of increased and decreased bleeding time. Decreased bleeding time, there is no issue, but increased bleeding time has tremendous clinical significance. We need to know the reason why their bleeding time has been increased, whether the platelets count is reduced, that is called thrombocytopenia, or whether the functional status of the platelets has any issue, such as we have many types of platelet function tests. So that we need to check. Okay. Uh, I think within 10 minutes this class will over. Anyway. So this is all about the bleeding time. Yes, someone doubt. Hmm.
Hello, sir. So, in the first method of like finger pricking, when we on the filter paper, we put drop by drop. So, if we prick the finger and then spot on the filter paper, then we have to wait for 30 seconds, or we can spot many on the
No,
at
no,
same
for
time.
every 30 seconds you need to take. You
Sir,
cannot take
for
many.
the okay, sir. Sir, for that we need to prick again and again, or sir, it's then.
No, no, no need to prick again and again. From the same prick, you need to wait. That's it. You cannot prick multiple times. That is a
Okay, sir.
wrong.
We have to press the finger and collect one drop. Then again press the finger.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, correct. Yes, this is all about bleeding time. And see, this is it. I have given you a Hindi reference also. International students, I give English is already written on paper. Okay, so same thing. Okay, don't worry, don't get confused. Then coming to the clotting time, very simple clotting time. It is the time taken for the blood to convert from fluid state to the semi-solid state is called clotting time. So clotting time happens because of conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin in the presence of 13 clotting factors. Whenever there is a deficiency of any clotting factor or fibrinogen or some other chemicals involvement results in increased clotting time. So whether a great blood vessel ruptures, bleeding continues. In few minutes, blood loses its fluidity and sets into a semi-solid mass. This mass is referred as a clot, and the phenomenon is called coagulation. Okay, clotting of blood is called coagulation, by the way. So definition: clotting time is defined as the time interval in between onset of bleeding and the appearance of semi-solid mass, i.e., clot. Okay, that is called clot is called as a clotting time. Normal value of clotting time is 3 to 4 minutes. It will be greater than bleeding time. Keep in mind. Okay, it is a screening test for coagulation disorders. We have many coagulation disorders. Okay, like there will be multiple clotting factor deficiency conditions in the body, like hemophilia A, B, thalassemia, then some platelet functional disorders like thrombocythemia, Gallman's thrombocythemia. Then we have I forgot some names. Okay, there are many bleeding conditions and clotting conditions. All those are associated with deficiency of either one or two clotting factors in the blood. Okay, this is all about the clotting time. Then a method here we have two types of method, students. One is capillary tube method. As I stated, it's like it's a small refill like a glass tube. We will color blood in it and we will start pricking it until we are seeing a fibrin thread. And second method is Lee and White method. So Lee and White method means very simple. We will take blood in a test tube without anticoagulant, and this test tube will be kept in a water bath. Water bath will maintain 37 degrees centigrade. That means here we are assessing the clotting status of the blood at body temperature. Okay, so not only taking clotting time on a room temperature, but also taking clotting time at body temperature will be more accurate result. So Lee and White method will use more blood. Okay, almost 3 ml blood need to be collected in a test tube, and we will go for water bath, and we will go for checking the clotting status after 3 minutes. So that is a major difference between capillary and Lee and White. The advantages of capillary tube method is, in capillary tube method, the amount of blood will be less. Okay, even just with a finger prick, we can go for a nice test. Yes, Mr. Raman.
Sir, as you said that we have to break the capillary tube, then sir, by which substance it is made up of? By glass
Glass
or
only.
plastic?
Glass. Easily
Okay, sir.
breakable glass. But you need to be careful when you're breaking. Okay, you should not hurt yourself.
Sir, if we break the capillary tube, then then patient's blood can
No, it
we can
won't.
touch with that, then it is harmful. Is it
That's
is
why
there no alternative for this capillary tube?
you should use gloves. The alternative is Lee and White
Okay,
method.
yes, sir. Gloves. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for protection gloves. Okay, sir.
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Simple. Yes, that's it. Some more doubts. What is another doubt? Yes, Miss Neo. What is your?
You mentioned that the body temperature somehow influences the working time.
Neo, can you chart? Okay, can you please type your question because
You,
breaking your voice.
my question is, you said that the body temperature somehow influences the clotting time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so my question is, so you're saying that maybe on a warm day, the clotting time might be delayed because the blood is dilated, and then maybe on a cold day, the vessels are constricted.
Yes, that's why we cannot trust the room temperature. This is called in vitro diagnosis. Actually, in our lab terminology, if you are doing any test in vitro, that means outside the body, the results might be mislead us because we are not doing in the ideal setup. Ideal body environment is not provided to the blood. So rather than, let us try to replicate the body temperature by placing these test tubes in a water bath, and that will give us the accurate results. As you stated that temperature will affect the clotting time status. So why not we eliminate such issue? Why we should do this clotting time in room temperature? Maybe in room temperature is somewhat less, so it will easily clot. Fastly it will clot. So that may misguide us. That will give us false positive result, false negative results, like the patient has no issues. That's why we need to cross compare this in the this water bath. That will give better results. Yeah. So preliminarily, we will go with normal test. In the normal test, if we suspect some issue, no, then we will go for more accurate test. Okay, that is the second. I will share you the second link also with you. Don't worry. So let me finish this capillary tube. So in the capillary tube method, we got, as you already stated, you just prick it and we will collect blood in a glass tube and we will go for breaking it after every 30 seconds until visualization of the fibrin thread. I will show you the picture of fibrin thread here. So see, first we pricked it, then we got a blood, then we charged the capillary tube with blood. Then after 30 minutes, we are going to break it. So at one particular time, we can able to clearly see a fibrin thread. So visualization of fibrin thread indicates that blood has been clotted, and we will stop the stopwatch and we will go for reading. This is all about the clotting time. So clotting time and bleeding time. This is everything about this one. In our next lecture, I will show you a video a demonstration video of clotting time and bleeding time. Then I will conduct a mock quiz in the LMS, and everyone must attempt the quiz. Okay, if you are able to attempt this quiz, then I will give the actual quiz. Okay, I will keep 3 quizzes because I need your marks. Okay, so I will keep quiz on the same topics: bleeding time, clotting time, and our blood grouping. On these 3 topics, I will ask questions. Okay, don't worry, it will be easy. So I will meet you at 2:50. Okay, so thank you very much, students. Yes, Samar.
Hello, sir. As in this PDF, only the sir, there is no Lee and White method given, only capillary tube method. So we have to, we will just perform this only capillary tube method, or we will perform both.
No, we will perform only capillary, not Lee and White.
Okay, sir. Yes, okay, sir. Yes, sir. And sir, when will our quiz will held?
I will keep quiz tomorrow, but today I will keep a sample quiz, like mock quiz. Okay, dummy quiz, just to
Okay,
see
sir.
whether
No
you can.
marks will be, no marks will.
No marks will
Okay,
be
sir.
deducted, nothing. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Please, when you post this in the LSM, could you please inform us in the WhatsApp, because
Definitely.
there is no notification of LSM come. We have to check.
I understood. Definitely, I will inform.
Okay,
you.
sir. Okay,
Uh,
sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Someone else is starting something. Someone saying raising their hands. Yes, Neo.
Yes,
Hmm.
sir.
Hmm.
For some of the practicals that you asked us to write, you asked us to leave spaces for the observations and the clinical results. So before, you've asked us to Google them. So we just Google and then we fill them in and then we then submit.
Yes. As of now, you just submit without observation result. That observation result you can write upon coming back to the campus. Okay.
Okay, observation. But then we have to Google the clinical significances.
As of now you can finish writing clinical significance. You just leave that practical and observation.